Okay, we can start. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much for introducing yourself in the chat. And thank you for joining for this session from the Waste Management Working Group. Before we start, I just want to I'll start by introducing myself. So I'm Joanna. I'm a researcher at Groupe URD, and I'm the coordinator of the Réseau Environnement Humanitaire, Humanitarian Environment Network, or REH. And I'm here today with Céline. And Céline, I'll let you introduce yourself.
So my name is Céline Haim. I'm working as a Sustainable Supply Chain Coordinator for Action Against Hunger France, Action contre la faim. And I'm co-leading the session, the working group with Joanna. Thanks.
Thank you, Céline. Just before we start, I want to mention that if English is not, the language, my slides are going crazy. If English is not the language that you're most comfortable with, you can put some subtitles on. To do so, you can go to the three little dots, the screenshots are in French, next to the camera, and you can put the subtitles on, and then you can change the language of the subtitles so that they are for the language that's best for you. So today's session is going to be particularly focusing on the work that the working group has done in the past year. And so we look forward to sharing that with you. But just before we do that, we'd be curious to know who's in the room. So I've seen that some of you have introduced yourselves in the chat, and thank you so much for this. We just have a couple of questions on Slido. So you can join by scanning the QR code with your smartphone, or by going online on slido.com and putting the code, which is 2864071. And the first question that we have is to know where you're joining us from. Personally, I'm based in Paris, and I think, Céline, you're in the south of France. I was going to say we have a lot of Francophones, but then we have an Italian or someone in Italy that jumped in. Okay, we have a couple more questions for you. So if you can access the Slido, otherwise you can also put it in the chat. But we'd also be curious to know what kind of organization you work for. What I'm seeing in the chat, I think most of you are NGO workers, but we'd be interested to know if there are other people in the room as well. We have 100% NGO. Very diverse crowd. And then, oh, yay, one UN person. And then with also, particularly with regards to waste management, we have a question for you. So at your organization, so at the organization level, that be on a free project or overall at the organization level, how are you doing waste management? Do you already have a policy that you're implementing? Do you have a policy that's not being implemented yet? Are you currently developing a policy? Are you just starting a discussion internally, or are you just at the state where you are following local legislations, but you cannot do much more than that yet? Okay, so we have different stages of the people participating. Hopefully the resources that we'll share here today will be helpful to you, as they are with regards to different stages of advancement. So hopefully that will be useful to you. Just before we go a little bit more in detail about the work of the working group and what we've been doing, just a quick note on the REH in case you don't know it. So the Humanitarian Environment Network is a network of Francophone organizations and aid and development practitioners who work together to improve and to reduce the environmental footprint of aid. We have over 300 members, including 30 organizations. And the way we're set up is that we have 4 working groups to operationalize the discussions that are happening. So oftentimes it's either environmental and climate officers or thematic advisors and experts or logisticians that take part in the different working groups and that work together on specific topics to try to answer to their own problems. So it's quite operational. We have one working group on environmental assessments, and they have held a similar session to this one, meaning presenting what the working group has been doing and what their next steps are. That presentation was this morning, and the recording is available on YouTube. We have one working group focusing on more the carbon footprint and what to do to calculate it, to reduce it. And they have a session on Thursday. There is one on sustainable procurement who's holding their session tomorrow, and then the waste management working group who's holding the session today. If you're curious to know more, you can go on to the REH website where we have lots of different resources and news from the network and so on. Right. My slide is frozen. But just a few words on the working group itself. Oh, sorry. Oops. Okay, just a few notes on the working group itself. So the REH network has been around since 2012, but it was restructured in 2021. And then in September 2022, we launched the Waste Management Working Group. The overall aim of this working group is to support the different member organizations to better take into account their waste and to facilitate waste management at the project level for the different members and for the rest of the sector. It is less so operational, as in we're not developing tools, but rather the working group has been a space for the different member organizations to exchange good practices, their ways of working, to really see how they could potentially harmonize, learn from each other, or to collaborate on specific issues. We're not working alone. We know that there's lots of different initiatives that are going on in the sector, especially on waste management. And so we take it to heart to cooperate with the REC initiative, the joint initiative, and Ulo. Ulo is actually a member of the working group. And so we're having discussions with them so that we are on the same page and coordinating our activities. What we see is that we need lots of people that are involved for the issue of waste management, and that there is a real need for collaboration and mutualization on the field level, and to work with the wider sector. So we're going to go more into detail about the different issues that the member organizations and the issue of waste management in the sector in general. And so those are the main issues that the working group is trying to collaborate on and to try and solutions together. The logos are at the bottom of the slide are the different NGOs that are parts of the working group currently. It is an open working group, so if you're interested to join us, you can send us an email. So I mentioned that there are a few problems with regards to waste management that our member organizations and that humanitarians in general are facing with regards to waste management. And so what we've done last year is that we kind of did an analysis of the main issues that the NGOs are seeing happening in their work. And we try to define a little bit more what those different issues are. And today we will try to provide you with some of the different resources and the different, for example, presentations or everything that we know with regards to the specific issues that we are mentioning here on the slide, so that if you're interested or if you're facing the same issues, you can have a look and see what others are doing. As I said, this working group is very much a sharing good practices working group. So it's also what we want to do here today, to share with you all the good practices and the different resources that we've worked on. So firstly, one of the main issue is with regards to knowing the waste framework and to respect local regulations, as well as being able to monitor them. NGOs also have been facing an issue with regards to knowing their waste. So both in terms of the type of waste, but also the quantity of waste. In a lot of settings, there's also the issue of knowing if there are recyclers available, and if they are, how to identify them, how to contractualize them. So that's an issue that we've worked a lot. One issue that keeps coming up, but we haven't had a chance to really work on it, is the cost return when there's only a small quantity of waste. So that's an issue. If you have any resources you want to share on this, please do feel free. We have talked a lot about dangerous waste in particular, so how to manage it, how that be medical waste, e-waste. So that's a big topic for us. And then finally, what to do if you've tried to look for recyclers and there are no local recyclers, so what to do with your waste. We've gone into more detail about these different issues in last year's presentation. So I would refer you to that presentation. I'll put the link in the chat in a few seconds. But so here today, we'll really go through each problems and show you what we've done and share with you, what we've done with the working group on the different topics. But before we do that, I'd be curious to know if at your organizational level, you encounter similar issues that we've identified. So again, you can hop back onto Slido. It's the same link as before. It should have added a question. You can use your phone and scan the QR code, or you can go on slido.com and put in the code. Okay, so I'm seeing that knowing your waste is an issue for most people, and we did work a little bit on this specific issue, so hopefully the session will be helpful. Similarly, with identifying recyclers, as we said, managing dangerous waste is one of our main topic of discussion and of worry with the working group. And so I've put in all of those in some context here. Thank you. And I've put the link to last year's presentation in the chat, and we've also done some pretty detailed minutes on every specific issue. So if you're interested more, and so that was more in defining the issues, and so today we'll go more into what we've been looking at to try to answer those issues. Okay, so I'm just going to stop and share my screen again, so that now you should be able, if there are links on the slide, you should be able to click on them. As we will be sharing lots of resources, I think it might be more interesting. So, I hope you can still see my screen. Specifically on being able to know the waste framework, so the legislation and regulations around waste management, that has been something that came up a lot and kind of like the first step in knowing what to do. So a few of the resources that were shared with us, one of them is a specific map for e-waste legislatives and legislations. So that's quite a useful resource that's been shared with us. And there's also a database with regards to the plastic laws. And so that was also quite useful, and hopefully this could be useful to you as well. We had a specific session, and you'll see that we worked a little bit on transboundary movements, and I saw that was less an issue for you. But just in terms of knowing the legislation, the framework for transboundary movements, that was something that we see is quite hard and that our organizations were struggling with. We did have WFP come in one of our meetings and explain to us what they've done. And we will share some more resources towards the end on how to better understand those legislations and what to do. But we know that the specific issue of legislation for transboundary movement was something that was quite a struggle for us. If at any point in time you have some resources or experiences related to a specific issue, please do feel free to either put it in the chat or to raise your hand, because we're very keen on getting any kind of feedback within the working group. Specifically on the issue of knowing your waste, I'll pass it on to Céline to talk about this issue.
Yeah, it was some feedback of few NGO on the work ongoing to share lessons learned. And here we go. Let's start with the PRERAC, French Red Cross. Perhaps you heard about that great job that they made, especially on the humanitarian context, where they really make in detail the waste assessment of their major procurement and looking at solution of exportation, because it was any local recycling factory. I really encourage you to go through their reports, where you can see as well the detail of the tools that they used. Okay, so it really links with the work of transboundary transfer of waste management. For ACF as well, we made some presentation of the work done in Madagascar in terms of journey in waste management. Here you have a little summary of what is actually waste in Madagascar, about the fleet, the ICT, the office or kitchen waste, which is here the figures about the office waste. But in a much more general journey, our work was to analyze the legal framework, doing the waste assessment, so starting for facilities. And nowadays we are continuing on program activities, really based on real figures, knowing our volume of waste and doing the transfer to recyclers that we could contract in the previous stage. And as well, of course, having a monitoring and follow-up system to ensure that everything is going smoothly. So that was the major journey that we present from ACF. As well, we had MSF presentation on the work that they did on garage waste characterization, which is a great job as well, and guidance that you can see on the REC platform. Here we go. We can continue. As well, we still are working on as partner on the REC mapping. Do you want to present it or should I continue? Up to you, Joanna.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so you probably know that the REC is like doing this pool services, collecting the data of recyclers and assessment done by a few different NGO. The idea is to merge this information and facilitate this access of information. As well, you can see that there is a new questionnaire that was facilitated by HULO to update the information online. So you can click on the link to access to it. On the parallel work, we decide from our working group to connect people doing currently the assessment in few countries to see if they can merge their energy or doing together the recycler assessment. Recycler assessment was definitively a big topic for our teams. Here we go. So we work, by example, with ULO in Burkina Faso and RCA and Liban, where they facilitate especially the mapping of recycler on e-waste. And when we are team connecting in this country, we can bring them together to facilitate the information. Here we go. We can continue.
Thank you. Yeah. A specific point on dangerous waste. So I said that was one of a big issue for us that we've been talking about and looking at. So within the working group, some of the resources that have been shared with us, we had a presentation from GPA specifically to learn more about e-waste in displacement settings. And about off-grid solar solutions, so you can access that. You can also reach out to them. It was very helpful. A few of the resources that already exist that we think are very interested to share. Some resources that were developed from inside the sector. So you have our sources a study on garage waste. You have a booklet that was done by WFP and a guide also by MSF for public health waste, so more medical waste. Those are a few of the resources that are known within the sector. And then from outside the sector, some resources that were also shared with us were this handbook for for e-waste management. And with what's interesting in this resource in particular is that there's some best practices and case studies that you can look at, and also some examples that you can or people to reach out to. There is also a resource with regards to policies for e-waste management. And there's also an e-waste training manual if that's something that you want to do within your organization to train your teams a little bit more. And so that training manual we thought was quite good. And then because this is particularly an issue within the working group, with regards to solar waste, we've just created a subgroup within the working group to work specifically on that issue of solar waste management. And the aim would be to develop very quick guidelines on how to properly manage solar waste. So that's something that we want to do collaboratively. Again, if you have any resources or expertise on the topic, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you, Marta, for sharing a resource in the chat as well. So again, that was related to the issues of dangerous waste. But then we also wanted to look at what happens if there are no local recyclers. So obviously that's a little bit harder, but we've seen some innovations and some interesting initiatives that are going on that we wanted to share. So first of all, there's the Joint Initiatives Procurement Decision Tree. That's actually quite good to help make the choices. We had a presentation of, maybe you've heard of it, of a Plastic Odyssey. And basically one of their activity is that they have a factory ship where they can take waste and recycle it on the ship. So we had a presentation of their work, how they function, how it could be implemented. So that was one of the innovation that we saw. And then related to transboundary movements, because oftentimes if there are no local recyclers, then one of your only options would be to see if it is possible to find a recycler in another country that's not too far. We had a presentation from Recyclamed, who's a firm who specializes in medical and dangerous waste. And so they presented to us their different services and how they do. And they also do transboundary movements with that waste. So again, I mentioned it before, but WFP came and related some of their experience with regards to transboundary movements, what they learned. They gave us some advice as well. We also created a Excel for if there is a successful crossing to indicate so that the different members can know, okay, so this organization succeeded in doing a crossing between X country and Y country of this type of waste. Maybe I can jump on that crossing. Is there something that can be mutualized there? How can I learn? Can I do the same? So it's also so that we know who to contact with regards to successful crossings. And also, I said it before, with regards to knowing how the different regulations. So transboundary movement is regulated under the Basel Convention, and so we did have a look at a short e-learning module that we thought was quite useful to better understand how it works, what are the complications and the possibilities with regards to transboundary movements. Again, we went into more detail about those specific issues in last year's presentation. This was more to present the different resources and good practices that we've seen within the working group. And that was all the different issues that we looked at and the resources that we worked on. And Celine, I'll leave it to you with the conclusion before we open up for questions.
Exactly. So as conclusion, so yeah, it's really a big topic. There is many different risks and complications up to the context, up to the type of intervention, that the solution need to be adapted to the context. It's not like one solution that can fix all cases. As well, one key element we need for pooling of resource and waste. So actor like HULO or REC, like bringing together other NGO working together, that are really a key element. Share best practice and coordination. We need to learn from each other good solutions. So that's why we keep on going on sharing good experience during our working group, but we are happy to connect to any other initiatives. Budgeting is a key element for waste management to ensure that it's integrated in the proposal budget. So here we can link as well with the donor requirement as the minimum requirement of ECO. So yeah, we need to bring on board the donor on this thematic to ensure that our activity have the resource for a proper management plan. And so even if in time of reduction of budget, so currently with the crisis of the humanitarian sector, because of the impact of the dismantling USAID, we need to keep the waste management as not an option in our program, but which is something that we need to do in terms of do not harm principle. So yeah, it's one key sentence that we wanted to raise. Yeah, because it's based on health and environmental risk, and we need to continue to mitigate. And here we go. As conclusion, we are happy to open the floors if you have any question or you want to jump on this intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. And as Celine just said, we're very open to receive good practices, bad practices, if you also have just experiences, because we can see that it's a difficult topic, and so we're really trying to share and collaborate all together. So that was the main aim of the session, really to share with you what we've been looking at and what helped members of our working group. But if you have any other resources, please do feel free. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or raise your hand, and we'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, Marta?
Sorry. Hey everyone, and yeah, I just wanted to share that was a very nice summary of the all issues, tools, concerns on the way. So very good presentation, and I wanted to ask a question regarding the collaboration with informal recycling sector, no? Because it was mentioned, and I think that's a good approach also when we want to build on their capacity for transporting waste and also their expertise. But I think that I don't know, it's not very visible, or maybe some kind of guidance would be necessary to know how to engage them, to make sure that working with them, they can also have the opportunity to improve their working conditions and maybe support them. So it's not only a simple agreement, but an agreement that can also generate some benefits and possibilities for them to grow. So just want to hear if there is any work or any plans to work on that. Thank you.
Things that we raise it like a subject yet. So far, I can only talk on my experience. In few countries, so especially in remote location, as we could find any recycler, we start to work with the informal sector, and the solutions that we could raise was really as well adapt to the team resources in terms of finance resources, but as well time available to make any training or capacitation to this team. But basically, we have some example like in Nigeria, where this informal group of waste picker, we sensibilize them, and they finally, after a few months, set up a small company with a registration, because I could see the opportunity of be structured, and it was through this an opportunity to work with few NGO and even if propose our services to company. And so that was a very, very good success. In other areas, that was more challenging because people are moving of geographic zone and wasn't really structured, but more independent. So when you don't have any cooperative, it's more challenging, but the way of working can be raised. So definitively, it's something that we need to structure a little bit, and having few options of setup, and perhaps tools and guidance for the team that sometimes just don't have the capacity themselves to lead on such activity, because start to be a programmatic activity with a team, with resource, and that's only under, by example, the logistic recycler assessments that we hold. So yeah, I'm really happy to share on these topics with who want to advance the subject. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aline?
Thank you, Céline, for the presentation, and to Joanna. I have two questions. So my first question is to NGOs partners, operational partners, I would say. I would like to know if you have get the use to include dedicated budget lines in your proposal for waste management. I don't know if you have an overview about this, maybe new practices inside our sector. And my second question was for the REH working group. I was just curious. Do you intend to work on more social behavioral challenges? Because I have the feeling that we have worked a lot about technical issues, but I'm just thinking that some other part of the difficulties come from the social part of the waste management. Thank you.
So I don't know
if you can. I don't know if you can answer. I mean, the question is for all the participants at this meeting, I think.
I leave the floor for other participants to answer, and I can complete.
Otherwise, Céline, you can answer on behalf of ACF.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, at the moment, let's say that the budget line in waste management, from our strategy, it was in the 6 or 7 country pilot where we raised the thematic to put in place a simplified waste management plan. The fact was to integrate, okay, what is the resource that we need in terms of human resource and financial resource to make ongoing this plan, and we integrating in our general budget for the mission and try to allocate a part on different proposal. It's how we could manage at least to have the finance for the structure for well-established structure waste management. For the program activity, is still it will depend really if the thematic could be raised at the beginning, but in some country we start to integrate a certain percentage in the program, or to recover this general cost, or to have like a budget line, like an envelope for the waste management. But work in progress is not at the moment like a general setup to have in all project a waste management budget line. Thanks, Philline.
Yes, it will be quite the same answer as you, Céline. At ULO, we could see since 1.5 years now that we try to convince the NGOs, but also the donor, to finance this part for the beans. But we could see that with the joint environmental initiative that we have since 1 year, that sometimes some NGO didn't buy these different beans to sort. So it's a big issue that we have with the collectors still, even if you have a solution. So I think it's linked with your question about change management also. And this is why we advocate a lot for shared HR resources on environment. That is a big issue specifically right now. And yes, it's we will have also a session on joint HR initiative next week. And we advocate a lot for that. Without anybody in the field, we will not progress on that topic. It's too hard. But it's so hard now to find any money for that. So, but let's see, step by step.
Thank you, Philline. And just another question for Céline. How do donors react when you try to add a dedicated budget line for waste management? Do they even react?
It was sometimes like request of restructure of the budget, so they needed to decrease the line that was proposed, but some of them accept, or sometimes it was we needed really to express for what will be used this budget line, like a recovery cost of few months of our environmental manager working on the topics, or even if for a consultancy that we had in online. So we needed to give explanation, of course, of this to justify, but mainly at the moment it was like co-funding this budget line. Actually, we request from the issue to reserve a certain lump sum in the general budget of the country mission. And so the allocation of the waste management line was pretty low in few proposals.
Thank you. And Francesca just shared an interesting experience that they have. I don't know if you want to share with us, like open up your mic and let us know, if I can read it from the chat as you wish.
Hi, colleagues. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Yeah, as I was mentioning, just sharing the measures that we are taking to that we were great green tool that was shared by REH a little bit here, and trying to also encourage our clauses.
Actually, sorry, I'm so sorry, we can't really hear you. I thought it was just me, but I think, yeah.
Sorry, is it better now?
Yes, much better.
Okay, just in short, just saying that we are introducing green criteria and also encouraging country teams to introduce take-back clauses in tenders, and that can help preventing the amount of waste that comes in the end that needs to be handled. Although we must say that there are significant challenges, especially on hazardous waste, especially in remote settings. And in those cases, we're trying to encourage the country teams instead of resourcing to landfills to team up with other NGOs, because often we have the same types of waste, but we don't know about it. And for specifically types of waste, we try to encourage them to team up and cost share, let's say, to transfer waste that needs to be treated to authorized plants, which are often located in capital cities. That's an example specifically for Chad, but we are working on it in other locations. Long way to go yet.
Thank you for sharing this. And I think, yeah, because there's lots of challenges, it's interesting to hear that you're trying to do it. Marta?
Yeah, no, just to respond on Philine's and Francesca. I think that's a very good initiative. This cost sharing and on the transportation of the hazardous waste. And I was also wondering if there's also some example on, creating some kind of evidence of the needs, but more coordinated at some kind of coordination platforms in responses. That could be also an approach to advocate, no? So yeah, just wondering that one organization or two, but also the entire response, if can create some kind of evidence that then donors maybe could be more willing to invest because it's more at response level, no, and it's not individually by organization. And yeah, and also I think I wanted to mention that the WASH cluster colleagues are developing a waste management compendium that would be released. I guess it's in the last stages, but it's a very good document that provides a lot of technical guidance on how to approach waste, but there's also a bit on how to approach waste technically, but also at coordination level, who is kind of which are the first steps to approach waste, always making sure that the government is the first responder, but how to support the government, and yeah, and then how the different sectors activities needs to be coordinated in order to use same resources, but at the same time not to overload the services that maybe are provided for households and markets. No, so each sector may generate huge amounts of waste, and it needs to be dealt by each sector also. So I think that's a very good document, and I hope we can also invite them in one of the coordination meetings to get a bit of feedback from them, because that was one of the questions. No, so who is doing waste? No, who is responsible of waste in the field? And maybe from here we can get a more understanding. Yeah, over to you. Thank you.
It's a great news, Marta. And do you have an idea about when will be the deadline of the companion?
It's in the last stages. I would not be able to say when, because it's more on edition, and this thing seems like it's fast, but always there's difficulties. No, but well, I guess that next coming months, 2 months or something like that maybe. But
okay, thank you a lot.
Thank you so much for sharing this. If there are any more questions, go ahead. Or if there's any more resources that we should be aware of. But thank you for sharing this. We'll definitely be looking at that.
And just a question: are you going to present the perspective of for the coming year? I mean, the topic the working group would like to work on for the coming year.
Thank you. So, in particular, all of these issues are at stake with the working group, but I think, if you didn't, I let you complete me, but specifically, our solo waste is one of our main topic right now with the subgroup, and trying to develop a quick guidelines. So that would be the main aspect for now, and I don't know about the next year, Celine, I don't know if you want to complete.
During last meeting, we were talking about some topics about the integration of improving the waste management in the humanitarian sector. It was a few brainstorm or looking for guidance, but we didn't set up proper working group nowadays. So we will see later on, and we'll keep continue in the subgroup on the different topics. So
Because
we will let you inform.
I don't know if someone has time to work on this, but I think it could be a good idea to link with the development stakeholders, and we already discussed this point previously in the working group meeting. And I'm thinking of, in particular, to the World Bank. I think it's not a big deal to just liaise with the World Bank and to try to see, because they are working on the field in Global South, and I'm sure they could have a great idea. It could be like to better coordinate our efforts with the development stakeholders. Okay.
Thank you. Alexandre, your hand is raised.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for the presentation. So I'm afraid I couldn't follow it as much as I wanted to, but a general question about, I don't know, because some organizations may face just challenges between carbon reduction action and waste better management / production actions. I don't know if we were to choose, what does the working group recommend in terms of ethical duty? Thank you.
Thank you for that nice question. I don't know, Celine, if you want to come.
I think an answer. It's a simple one. It's a simple question. It should be a simple answer, no?
No, but I think it's about risk management, especially if it's dangerous waste. But I mean, MSF knows because you've been working a lot on this. But the risks that they can come from there. That's also why we put it in the conclusion as well, is that it's not really an add-on, but really for some specific waste, it is, you really have to at least manage and try to manage it. I don't know if Celine, if you want to complete me, or Alexandre, you've raised your hand again, so if you want to complete your answer.
Yeah, please Celine, carry on. I have some sort of a follow-up question, maybe to make it more maybe precise. But please, Celine.
Sorry, I was taking some notes, and if you can repeat the question.
I was wondering, like, if we were to choose for lack of, I don't know, we all have a limited budget, just we all have a limited budget, the world misery is pretty big. So if we had to choose between a waste reduction / better management action and a carbon reduction action, I don't know where does the waste working group stand?
It's a tough question because, by example, waste management from the perspective of carbon emission is very low. It can be 1 to 4% in general average of the carbon footprint that I could see. But in terms of environmental impact or health impact, it's very different. So actually, I would divide myself to keep going in the both group, because it's not targeting, is actually the levers can be a little bit different, and it's not targeting the same solution. But if we have to choose, we'll really be focused on waste mitigation, and especially hazardous waste mitigation. If we have like a limited resource, to really focus on this.
Also, if I can add, what we're seeing within the working group is that some NGOs have, as you said, resources like HR resources to work on this specific topic. And so they are able to specifically target certain issues. I'm thinking about MSF or SF, and some don't. And so it's also about what is already, there's also this whole like collaboration going on, trying to share what organizations are doing. Not that doesn't really answer your question with specifically to the choice, but at least we're seeing with the limited resources that they are. I think that's why like a working group like this one or a REX coordination meeting is really important, because then for the different NGOs and organizations that don't have the resources, it's also interesting to see what's already being done and not to start from scratch. And I don't know if you wanted to complete your answer because you lowered your hand.
Yeah, no, it goes on and off automatically. And maybe a more concrete question. I don't know, because you mentioned the ECHO's minimum environmental requirements, which I don't know very much. I don't know maybe how do the institutional donors, who have environmental requirements, in which direction do they push? Do they push more for, or maybe are they demanding more on this or that aspect, or is it a general request to please lower your environmental, including carbon footprint?
Personally, I don't know. If anyone has the answer in the room, do feel free to say.
Please.
But I know someone who put, with regards to solar system end of life, I think also the issue is that maybe we didn't, like, it's more of an analysis from the start. Like, did we think it from the start? Is there an option from end of life on the field? So I think it's also something about, like, thinking about that aspect when you're doing the project, just to answer to that specific topic. But if anyone else has an answer for Alexandre, do feel free. Because I think there are requirements specifically on waste. Marta, I saw that you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, specifically for the ECHO minimum environmental requirements, there is some indicators on establishing waste management systems to make sure that waste is properly collected and, if possible, recover, no? And not implementing ad hoc practices like burning, open burning, or open dumping. And then there are other indicators on waste collected versus total waste generated. So it's a good indicator, which means, how much waste of the total is managed and it's not missed. And then indicator on recyclers, engagement with stakeholders that are engaged, that are recyclers, and other stakeholders that can manage your waste properly. I think that these are 3 indicators, but there are a few more. And then it's not only on management, but also on reduction. So there are also indicators on waste reduction by implementing some strategies that you can introduce at the procurement stage, like reducing unnecessary packaging, etc. But we can share the link, and there's it's a table, and then all the indicators are there. But I'm not sure if that was only the question, or I missed some part, Alexander. Sorry.
No, that would, yeah, the question, and my question was like, just even if the conversation with I don't know, with ECHO, and just what do they tell you in terms of, I wouldn't say priorities, or are they pushing you to please do work on the waste, or please do work on the carbon, because just you get more money if you work on the waste or on the carbon? Feeling.
It's not an answer, sorry, Alexandre, I don't have it. But just a contribution. I think that's what we could see in the field, is that starting with the waste, it's something concrete. We could talk about it. People are seeing that we can change practices and that it's something concrete, no pollution, etc. The carbon, with the supplier, with the team in the field, it's something that, it's in the air. We can't see it. And it's so hard to do like change management, etc., through the carbon Google. So this is why I don't know, but we try to use the waste entry in the different meeting, workshop with the supplier, with the team, etc., to go to climate change and other topics, I'm convinced that waste is concrete and that it's a good entry to speak about all that subject. The topic of the carbon, we try some question about carbon in the with the supplier, etc. It's going nowhere. So my little contribution to this huge question.
Thank you for all trying to answer to this unanswerable question.
Yes, Martin.
Yeah, I think that's a tricky question also, no? But as you mentioned before, it depends on, I mean, if it's terms of waste, if you're talking about hazardous waste, definitely it cannot be left there, no? So it needs to be collected for sure. Other type of wastes like cardboard, etc. Okay, the harm, it's not that much, but of course, for the dignity also of the population we are attending, so we should be responsible of our waste, no? So following also this do no harm principle. So for me, there's no question if we can or not, we must address waste that we generate or we contribute to be generated. But then also when we think about decarbonization, or it can be seen also as a way of optimizing resources. Usually adds this component on reducing CO2. So when we are kind of trying to share services, reduce the number of trucks because there's optimization on the its share, or also it's optimize the route, etc. It's a way of reducing costs. It's a way of reducing CO2. No, so when we think about I mean, there's a lot of initiatives that are for efficiency of resources that are that the reduction of carbon it's implied, no? So just thinking on this other, it's not reduction by reduction, but sometimes many of these decisions for resource reductions implies the reduction of CO2. If it also helps to, discuss on that. And I also put in the chat this coordination group we will have is a joint coordination group to discuss about win-win solutions, no? To think about solutions that can bring benefits on can lead to reduction of CO2 and also waste generation. And let's see, maybe that could be a nice platform also to raise this question from the different groups, from the different work streams.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, everyone. We are going over time, so thank you for participating and thank you for sharing all those insights and asking very hard questions, but trying to answer them together. I said it before, but the working group is open and we're keen to receive any kind of feedback. So if there's a good practice you want to share with us or a resource, do feel free to do so. And Celine, I don't know if there's anything that you want to say to conclude.
And thank you a lot for all the organization and your inputs during this session. And happy to keep in touch for our next lessons learned and sharing experience.
And we will share the slides and the minutes of this session and all the REH sessions at the end of the week as well, so you have access to them. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Goodbye.
so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.